Every year, we always have I pray about what I feel the Lord is going to do in the coming year. And I want to emphasize something to you this morning. And I don't want to be over dramatic. I don't want to be sensational. But I want you to listen very carefully to what I'm about to say. I feel in my spirit that this next year will be one unprecedented year in the history of mankind. I feel in my spirit that Brother Sam said things a while ago that were right in line with what I feel this next year is going to be. This year, the beginning of the year actually begins on Sunday. And the Lord told me this morning to tell everybody to be here and be here on New Year's Day. I don't know what he's going to say or do or what message he's going to give me. It may just be one word. I don't know. But I can't overemphasize the importance of being ready, being prepared, being prayed up, being right with God. I know we talk about end times a lot in this church, but I don't talk about anything that I don't receive from the Lord. And so if I'm talking a lot about end times, I truly believe we're in the end times. I have never had God stir my spirit in reference to this as he has this very week. I want you to hear what I'm saying. I don't know how to put a more serious spin on it than what I'm saying this morning. I'm going to say it again. Next year will be an unprecedented year in the history of mankind. I think it will be the most significant year in the history of the church since Christ died on the cross. You didn't get that, or you don't believe what I'm saying. I'm not a prophet. I'm not trying to be prophetic. I'm very careful about that. But I believe that this next year will be the most significant year in the history of the church since Christ died on the cross. Think about what I'm saying. Amen. And I'm not just saying that to have something to say. I feel it down deep in my spirit. I feel it down deep in my being. As I have gone about this week, I see people about their business. We were in Sam's Saturday. No one was doing anything ungodly. No one was doing anything that you could say, well, they're in sin. But I could just feel in my spirit that the average person had absolutely no concept of where we're at in history. Absolutely no concept of the significance of the return of Jesus Christ. The Bible says, as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be in the end time. I will not stand before God and be held accountable for you not being told. You can mark it off as, well, he don't know what he's talking about, or, he's always talking about the end times, so this is just more of the same. You can receive it any way you want, but as your pastor, I want you to receive what I'm saying this morning as truth, not because I'm saying it, but because I feel so strongly about what the Spirit of God has impressed upon me. It's time to quit playing church. It's time to quit playing Christian. It's time to dig your heels in and to look up, for your redemption draweth nigh. And I believe that with all my spirit. I don't know what God's going to do. I've been pleading with God to give me a specific word, not a generic or a general word. He has yet to do so, and I'm sure if he feels necessary to do, then he'll share that with me, and you'll be the first to know. Amen. But I urge you to just seek God. Amen. I urge you to draw nigh unto him as you never have before. It's not a time to play. It's not a time to draw back unto perdition. It's not a time to be complacent. It's not a time to be apathetic. We're in a time where things are quickly coming to a head. And I could share some of that with you this morning, and when the time is right, I feel like I will. I searched the Lord's heart this week about what to preach, and he took me to Genesis chapter 28. If you would go with me there, please. Amen. And it fits right in with much of what else he has spoke to my heart this week. I can't focus much on anything else other than what God has stirred in my heart this week. I haven't been able to much go about my normal business because of what he has stirred within me this week. Genesis 28, talking about Jacob. He has just gained Esau's blessing by deception, actually. And Isaac has come to a place where he realizes that this has taken place, but yet he's already given the blessing, and he realizes that the very thought that he wanted to give it to Esau was really not God's will. And so he sees in Jacob the promise from Abraham to pass on to him, and urges him to not marry of the Canaanites, to keep the bloodline untainted by the heathen. And so he sends him to his wife's kinfolks to seek a wife. The church is seeking the marriage. Amen. We have been engaged, if you will, to the Lord. We are in the betrothal stage of waiting upon that time where we are united with our groom. Jacob symbolically here is making this journey as the church is now on a journey towards that day where we come into the marriage supper of the Lamb. Amen. Verse 5 of chapter 28. And Isaac sent away Jacob, and he went to Padanaram unto Laban, son of Bethuel, the Syrian, the brother of Rebekah, Jacob and Esau's mother. When Esau saw that Isaac had blessed Jacob and sent him away to Padanaram to take him a wife from thence, and that as he blessed him, he gave him a charge, saying, Thou shalt not take a wife of the daughters of Canaan. And that Jacob obeyed his father and his mother and was gone to Padanaram. And Esau, seeing that the daughters of Canaan pleased not Isaac his father, then went Esau unto Ishmael, and took unto the wives which he had Mahalath, the daughter of Ishmael's, Abraham's son, the sister of Nebajoth, to be his wife. Now, Ishmael actually is dead at this time, but he's talking about the family of Ishmael. And Jacob went out from Beersheba and went toward Haran. And he lighted upon a certain place and tarried there all night, because the sun was set. And he took of the stones of that place and put them for his pillow, and lay down in that place to sleep. And he dreamed. And behold, a ladder set up on the earth, and the top of it reached to heaven. And behold, the angels of God ascending and descending on it. And behold, the Lord stood above it and said, I am the Lord God of Abraham, thy father, and the God of Isaac. The land whereon thou liest, to thee will I give it, and to thy seed. And to thy seed shall be as the dust of the earth, and thou shalt spread abroad to the west, and to the east, and to the north, and to the south. And in thee and in thy seed shall all the families of the earth be blessed. And behold, I am with thee, and will keep thee in all places whither thou goest, and will bring thee again into this land, for I will not leave thee until I have done that which I have spoken to thee of. And Jacob awakened out of his sleep, and he said, surely the Lord is in this place, and I knew it not. Surely the Lord is in this place, and I knew it not. Surely the Lord is in this place. And he was afraid, and he said, how dreadful is this place? One interpretation says, how awesome is this place? How awesome is this place? How awesome is the place that is the house of God? Praise God. This is none other but the house of God, and this is the gate of heaven. And Jacob rose up early in the morning and took the stone that he had put for his pillow, and he set up for a pillar and poured oil upon the top of it, and he called the name of that place Bethel. But the same of that city was called Luz at the first. And Jacob vowed a vow, saying, if God will be with me, and will keep me in this way that I go, and will give me bread to eat and raiment to put on, so that I come again to my father's house in peace, then shall the Lord be my God. And this stone which I have set for a pillar shall be God's house, and of all that thou shalt give me, I will surely give the tenth unto thee. What we have here is a shadow and a type of the modern day church. This church has been in existence for some 6 years as Crossway Church. We are coming up on December the 5th. Will be 6 years since we decided to begin our own work, to get out of the denomination that we were associated with, and to follow the Lord. We have stayed steady through this time. And from time to time, the question comes up, why don't we have this? Why don't we do that? Why aren't we doing this? Why aren't we doing that? You know, there's a question as to the path or the focus of the church. There's a question as to what direction are we going in? And as the pastor of the church, I'll assure you, no one pays more attention to such things than I do. And when these questions arise, and when people begin to wonder on these things, I go to prayer and I seek God. I try to seek the Lord. I'm not a perfect man, and I don't even want to even go in that direction. But I try to seek God for the direction of this church. I try to seek God for what it is that he would have us to do, where he would have us to be. And as I went to prayer on this matter some time back and sought the Lord spoke so clearly to me. And I stand here before you today on, I don't even know what date it is, I think the 20th of November, 2011. And I tell this church body, I have never been more confident. I have never been more sure. I have never been more convinced that we're exactly where God wants us to be. We're not perfect. I don't think we'll ever attain that status. We don't even want to go there. But I believe God is accomplishing within this body many things. I see him working in the hearts and lives of different individuals. We're like any other church. We have those that are faithful. We have those that are semi-faithful. We have those that are occasionally faithful. And then we have those that we see from time to time. I don't think we're any different than any other body of believers that I know of. We always should seek to do more. We should always be looking to improve ourselves. We're not to say, okay, we're all good and everything's good, so let's don't do anything else. I think we need to always be moving forward. We need to always be accomplishing God's will and doing what he has set this church here to do. We have a unique group of people, and that are a bit of a melting pot of our own. As the United States is a melting pot of cultures, we are a melting pot of different personalities and different backgrounds and those types of things, and that's exactly what, as a church, we should be. We are a multitude, or a congregation, if you will. And so we know that this is something that God has brought us together to accomplish his will through this body of believers. If we go back to verse 3 of chapter 28, there in Genesis, it says, "And God Almighty bless thee, and make thee fruitful, and multiply thee, that thou may be a multitude of people." That word multitude there means a congregation. He's telling him that you may be a unit. You may be a group of people with a common goal. He's saying, he's telling Jacob that the blessing is upon him, that he's going to bless and give favor to that his line, his family, his people that come from him will someday be the church. You got to understand that when we're talking about the church, the tabernacle, we understand that we are each individually a tabernacle of our own, provided we're saved. If we're saved and born again, then the Spirit of God dwells within us. The word tabernacle actually means dwelling place. And so the dwelling begins in me and in you and in you and you and you and you. And when you bring that together, you have a congregation. You have the modern day church. There are so many people who do not see the necessity of being in church. We've had people saved within just the last little while who obviously don't feel that it's important to be in the house of God. I don't know why they're not here. There may be a legitimate reason for that. We've had others that we love near and dear, and they'll come for a while and then they'll drift away. Not understanding, not embracing the idea of church. The whole concept of it. I have family members who totally reject the notion of church. They'll be the first to tell you, well, I believe in the church, but I believe in the universal church. Well, that's good that they believe in the universal church, because there is such a thing. The church as a whole, when the Bible speaks of the church, unless it specifically identifies it, it's talking about the universal church, the church, those who believe. But it is God's plan, it is God's idea to have church. It's God's idea for believers to gather together in a body and perform whatever functions God leads that church to do. This is not some social club. I had somebody promise me, oh, we're going, me and so-and-so is going to be there. We're going to come and visit. I guarantee you we're going to be there, And, I would like for them to come back and visit, but, don't do me any favors. I love them to death, but God called this body of believers together for a function, to accomplish certain goals, to accomplish certain things. And I believe we're right on track. I believe we're following God. I believe we're doing what God would have us as Crossway Church of Texarkana to do. I believe that with all my spirit. I believe that in my heart. I'm more sure of it now than I have ever been since the day we decided to do this. Since the day that we decided to take that big step. And I announced to this congregation that the Lord was leading me to start Crossway Church. And I told this congregation, I said, I'm not asking you to go with me because I don't feel like it's fair for me to ask you. But if you want to go, you can go. If you want to stay, you can stay. We will leave here and go elsewhere, is what I told the congregation. And I said, I will allow you to make your own decision on that. If you go with us as Crossway Church, then praise God. If you don't, I love you anyway, and praise God anyway. There were 84 people that voted that day. 84 people said, we feel the Lord is guiding you. We feel that God has taken this church in a particular direction, and we will go with you. You weren't following me. You were following the Lord. You were following what you felt the Lord was guiding and directing you to. And so we have come this journey, and we have gone this distance that we have gone. And we are coming into yet another year, the 7th year, I might add. The 7th year of this church will begin on December the 6th. And I don't know, God has not shown me a roadmap of what we will do or what we won't do. He's always shared that with me as I needed to know. Always reminds me of my military days when they would tell you this is a need-to-know document. That means unless somebody needed to know, they didn't need to see it. And that's kind of how God operates oftentimes. But we as a congregation, I feel, have been fruitful. Have we multiplied? Well, not a lot. We pretty well maintained. We may be down one day and up the next. We're pretty much where we were when we moved here. There were several that did not come with us. Evidently, they didn't vote. And some have left and some have came. But it doesn't matter, because it matters in the sense that we miss those that have left, but it doesn't matter in the sense that we're still focused on where God has taken us. We're still accomplishing, and I'll get into this as I get into this message. I'll get into what we accomplish as a church, why it's important for you to be in church, why it's important that you be part of a church, why we need it, why is it important to our relationship with Christ. Why did God even design the church? He could have designed it any way he wanted to. But I came back to the church when I got saved because I knew it was God's plan. I knew that it was scriptural, and it was what God wanted Christians to do. I left the church in pride. I left the church in sin when I left. when I was part of it, as much as my family did. Much of them have not returned. Some of them have. Praise God. Some have returned that a betting man wouldn't have put any money on it. But they're back in the house of God. It's God's plan. It is not just something for you to do on Sunday and Wednesday. It's not something that should be a concern of yours just on Sunday and Wednesday. This is your church. I am called to be the pastor of this church, and your call to be a member of this church is just as important as my call to be the pastor. We have different functions, but the call is the same. Again, keep in mind as I speak about the church that this twofold message. You're the church. You yourself are the dwelling place for the Holy Spirit. You yourself are a church in your own. But as a believer, as a dwelling place for the Holy Spirit, is your responsibility to be part of a larger body. It is your responsibility to find your place. Settle on where you're to be. Follow God in that. Don't take man's advice. Don't go there because your cousins go there. Don't go there because your mom and daddy go there. Don't go there because your brother and sister go there. Don't not go there because someone badmouths it. We get badmouthed. We're no different than any other church in this town. And there are people that tear this church down every day. Yin-yanging. Talking, gossiping. Most of what's said is not true. Some of it may be. I don't know. I don't know everything that's said. Don't want to know. Don't need to know. But I know one thing. I'm called to be the pastor of this church. I'm called to be here. And I feel like, at least for the most part, everybody in here is called to be here. But you have to embrace that. It's like anything else. You can't, at Cooper Tire, they have a union. And my understanding is there's a lot of pressure on all the guys that work out there to be part of that union. Well, there's no pressure here to be part of something. But if God calls you to that, if you're a child of God, then you've got to answer that call. You've got to know that that's where God has placed you. Now, we have some people that are in unique positions, and maybe they live elsewhere and work here or something like that, and they may have a dual calling there. But it is important to be part of a church body. It's very important. And to be part of that is to be like any other part of the body. The left hand can't be over here doing what the left hand wants to do while the rest of the body is doing something else. The body has to work in unison. So there's three things that God has, that we're going to talk about at any rate, that God has done in order to form the church in this world that we know today. The first thing that God did was that he ordained the church. It is God's ordination upon the church. It is God giving his blessing, giving his call, giving his hand upon the church itself. It's ordained of God. And man can argue with going to church all day long. But it does not justify their stance. Why? Because God ordained it. Don't look at me and say, well, the church is full of hypocrites. Don't look at me and say, well, the church does this and the church doesn't do that. Don't look at me and point out the fault with the church unless you're part of it. Yeah, there's hypocrites in the church. Yeah, there's people in the church that don't do right. The biggest kicker is that people see people in the church and go, well, they sin. Newsflash. It's true. We do. I'm not in the church because I'm perfect. I'm not here because I have sinless perfection. No, I don't need to be out there just using grace for a license to sin. You know me better than that. But I am not perfect. I am going to present an imperfect image at times. The church does that. I know you're probably never done it, but the rest of us, we mess up sometimes. And the world looks at that and they use that for an excuse. And we should be cognizant of that. We should be aware of that. Look, that the world is watching. And we should be very careful how we interact with the world. We should be very careful how we present ourselves as believers. It is a part of the responsibility of being in the church to present a Christ-like image. I'm just saying, in reality, we come a little short of that sometimes. The Bible tells us that we do. But we're to present an image that is both a witness and a declaration to the world of the power of God in the human being's life. Why? Because it's ordained of God. It is ordained of God. That word ordained means to be appointed, to be brought into, be instituted, to be established or invested with ministerial or pastoral functions. Means to be settled. God settled it a long time ago. We'll do this by churches. My people will be my people. They will worship me through the function of the church. The church is my plan for my people. It's a tabernacle where I will dwell. And I will interact with them. Jacob had the dream, and Jacob says, surely this is the house of God. Surely this place that I'm at right now is the house of God. And he dreamed about this ladder where the angels were descending and ascending back and forth to heaven. And the idea come to me that church was a place of communication. Yes. And I thought that was kind of an odd, non-scriptural idea on that. I thought, Lord, why did I come up with that? And I almost discounted that as something that I wasn't going to use. But I looked up the definition of communication. And I was shocked at what I found. It says a place to give or pass information. I'm sorry, it doesn't say a place. It says to give or to pass information, to communicate. It says to make others understand your ideas. I thought, boy, that's church. God uses church to make us understand his ideas, to give us and to pass info. But when I read the last definition of communication, it blew me away. People say all the time that Jacob's ladder was either a ladder or could be a staircase. And when you look in the Hebrew, when you're reading those verses of Scripture, it says that it could be the gateway to heaven. The last definition for the word communication was to be joined by a common door or gate. Church is a place for God to communicate his ideas to us. It's a place for him to communicate with those that he's called, those that he's brought into relationship with him. And you've heard me say it 100 times, if we have a relationship with somebody, we have to communicate. If we don't communicate with our children, they'll grow up ignorant. If we don't communicate with our spouse, we'll be living by ourselves for too long. And so how can we have a relationship with Christ without communication? And the argument, the age-old argument against church is, well, God can communicate. He can do anything that he can do in a church, he can do with me individually. And that's true. That's because you're a dwelling place. That's because you're a tabernacle. That's because you're a habitation for the Spirit of God. But why would you not want to avail yourself? You've heard me say it over and over and over again, that this altar is nothing but wood and a little bit of carpet with some trim on it. And I've told you many times, and I don't know if you believe me or not, but I said this altar is anointed. These pews are anointed. This brick and mortar and plaster and sheetrock is anointed, not because it has some sort of special power upon it. Jacob anointed the rock. A rock. How more common can you get than a rock? See them old westerns and some of them rock. When I was a kid, I used to call them cowboy rocks. That meant a rock big enough to hide behind and shoot around, you know. Some of them rocks out in Utah are humongous. I mean, it looks like a rock that somebody could pick up and throw, except it's as big as this room. One solid piece of granite or one solid piece of rock. And Jacob goes and he anoints that. Well, the oil is always symbolic of the Spirit of God. Yes, God can do anything in you outside this building that he can do inside. But as we saw evidence of, and I did not orchestrate that, the Spirit of God does what he wants to do. I don't know if you felt the Spirit like I felt it this morning, but I haven't felt it that way in a long, long time, and I feel it a lot. But that was the anointing of God moving and operating in this church building. Yes, God does move, and he can do anything in you outside this building he can do. But why would you not want to avail yourself of fellow believers, an atmosphere where the Spirit of God can move and let the anointing of God do what it wants to do? Amen. What he wants to do, excuse me. Why would you not want to avail yourself of that? It's a common fact that going to church does more than most people would like to believe or think. You show me a family that believes together and attends church together, and I'll show you a strong family. You know, in the church world today, the family is just as deteriorated as it is in the world. I'm talking about statistics here. There are exceptions to that rule, and that is those who really believe, those who believe together and are truly in a church where the Word of God is being preached and where truth is being declared. Then God is operating in that body of that family, that man, woman, and 2.4 kids. They're going to that church and they're profiting from it because they believe what is being declared. They're participating in the function that God laid out for the family in the first place. Now, we have some single mothers in here, and I'm not discounting you. I admire a single mother that has the courage to see to it that their children. I am a product of a mother who did it all by herself. She drug us 4 kids that were still at home. She made us go to church. It was not always popular. It was not a democratic vote going on there. But how many of you know the church is not a democratic society? It's a theocratic society. And my mother was not God, but she was the boss in our house. And if you didn't like that, you could argue with the switch. You ain't going to win that conversation, I guarantee you. But the home functioned. The home was able to accomplish what it was supposed to accomplish. The children were taught the things of God. Did some of us reject it later on? Yes, but the Word of God is there. I had opportunity yesterday to minister to some of my family. I was a little bit sneaky about it. But they got preached to and didn't know it. I walked in the other room, Candace going, talking about the Lord. You're talking. Word's in them. It was in me. It went everywhere I went for 20-something years. It stayed with me. Mom, Dad, you got your children in the house of God. Mom, and Dad, you got your children in the house of God. There's no greater thing you can do for them. Nothing. You can't make them serve God. You can't make them accept what's preached. You can't do any of those things. But you can expose them to the anointing that is there because of the ordained ministry that God has put in place for the believer. You never discount the importance of that. Well, I bring my child and he just don't get it. Keep bringing him. Keep bringing him. I didn't get it. I didn't always get it, but I was getting a whole lot more than what my mother realized. I was getting a whole lot more than what I realized. She may have known more than what I think she knew. But I was receiving. Some of you grandmothers, you bring your grandchildren to church because the parents won't. No, not necessarily on the parents, although it's their responsibility. If you can do it, do it. Candace told me that when we got saved, she said, you know, I really wasn't brought up in church. She said, the only church I can remember is my grandmother taking me. Well, evidently there was enough of the Word of God planted there that when that day came and I told her I got saved today, tears broke out in the corners of her eyes. And she said, well, did you ever think I might want to get saved? And run off into the bedroom and got saved. All by her little self. If she had never been exposed to the gospel, she may have rolled her eyes at me and got, oh boy, here we go. Now I got a religious nut for a husband. A lot of these wives out here don't think that's funny. You can't go in a church today that you won't see some wife there whose husband's too good to go to church. And sometimes it's the other way around, but usually that's the case. My daddy didn't need to go to church because my daddy was bullheaded. He didn't need that God stuff until he started thinking about dying. And praise God, I believe I'm going to see my daddy again. He was not the example that I would have liked him to have been, but I was not the example that I would have liked for me to have been either before I got saved. Don't discount church. Some of us take it so lightly. We plan everything in the world with church as secondary to that. And I could tell you how few times I've missed church in the last few years, but that sounded like I was boasting. But there are other people here. You don't ever miss church. I know if you're not here, I know you're sick. I know you are on your sick bed. And I'm telling you, it needs to be that much of a priority to us. I know you hear me talk a lot, you think that it's all about attendance and it's all about, numbers and that kind of thing. And I'd love to see everyone. I'd love to see people getting here early so they get a seat. But, that's not the most important thing about you being here. It hurts me when God gives me a message and I know in my spirit that brother so-and-so or sister so-and-so might need that particular message and then them not show up. It hurts me so bad. I'm thinking they're praying about something. They're asking God for something. And here he is answering them, and they're not even here to hear it. It's not even important enough. They want God to move mountains for them, but it's not important enough for them to make a priority out of church. It's ordained of God. Church is ordained of God. He has set this thing in place. He set this church in place. He set this church in Texarkana, Texas, for the people in this room. We have people that have driven as far as 70 miles twice a week to come to church. And then we have other people who can't get out of the bed in time on Sunday morning to come to church. And then they miss so much church, they're embarrassed to come back. Go figure. Go figure. There may not always be this building standing here. I saw a report the other day on the 2 young men that burned all the churches in East Texas. And I won't say the denomination because I won't blame it on the denomination. But they were brought up in church. They had some very basic questions about church. They got so angry with church. They got so dissatisfied and so disgruntled over church that they turned to the enemy and became arsonists. Now somebody somewhere failed to teach these kids about the love of Christ. I'm not blaming the preacher, I'm not blaming the parents, but that would be 2 good places to start. I don't know their individual situation. I'm not here to judge those folks. But how can you be in the house of God? And I understand, I sat under some hellfire and brimstone preaching for years. And sometimes when I realized how ignorant I had become of the things of God, I wondered at myself. But I knew I'd been taught. I knew that it had been declared. Was the preaching always perfect? Was the praise and worship perfect? Was the people in the church perfect? No. The reason most of my family left church was because of the preacher. And I'm not judging him, but I'm just stating the fact. Was that the right thing to do? No, it wasn't. Church is important. It's ordained of God. God ordained the church. Go to Acts 16. And as they went through the cities, they delivered them the decrees for to keep that were ordained of the apostles and the elders which were at Jerusalem. And so were the churches established in the faith and increased in number daily. That word decree there means an obligation on the Christians to submit to the doctrines. It's a declaration. Okay, here's what we believe. It's up to you to study this and believe in this and be part of that. When you join a church, when you join this church, I give you a simple piece of paper. And on that paper, it declares our stance on the first part. There's about, I can't remember, 5, 6, 7 issues there. And then on the back of that is the different doctrines of this church, what we specifically believe. And if you sign on that line, according to that application, you're stating that you not only read that and understand what we believe, but that you agree with that. If you don't agree with it, you don't need to join. If you don't agree with the doctrine of a church, you don't need to join. and you agree with that, and that you agree to abide by those beliefs. Now, some people just fill it out and they don't pay attention. I tell everyone, look, you need to read this. Make sure you agree with it, that you're going to abide by it to the best of your ability, and that you're going to agree to the doctrines of this church, to support that stance upon what we believe. I mean, if you're a member of this church, it doesn't do you any good to go out there and, well, all that stuff about the cross don't mean anything. That's not agreeing with the decree of what we believe. That's not agreeing with our doctrine. If you don't agree with our doctrine, we love you anyway, but, you know, why would you want to be part of a church that you don't agree with their doctrine? Some people just go to church, they just saddle up to a church. You know, people can come here forever and never join. That's okay. We don't require anybody to you know, that's something for you. If you want to officially become part of it, all it does is give you voting privileges. If you ever want to vote on anything, and we don't vote like some churches do on every little thing, you know. But if we do vote on something, then you'd have a vote. But it's more important part of that is that you agree to what we believe. You agree with the doctrine. You agree with the concept of what this church believes in. And we don't believe anything that's not in this Word of God. I can tell you that right now. So there's a obligation on the believer's part to be in agreement with what the doctrine that has been ordained of God has brought about. Now, this church ordained me as a minister. When I left the denomination we were in, I forfeited my ordination papers. But by virtue of this church approving me as pastor, that was the ordination, the man-made part of the ordination that brought about me as the pastor of this church. Now, we've ordained some folks since then. They were ordained by me and the council. The first ordination has to always be, it has to be called of God, number one. Now, they're not ordained in the sense that they're associate pastors. That's not their stance. Their ordination is of God for them to minister, to be ministers. And so that has to be, the man has to be involved in the physical part of that, get on that piece of paper. But the ordination has to come from God. If a brother come to me and said, look, I'd like for you to ordain me to be a minister, well, the first thing I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to know something about how he's living his life. I'm going to have to know him. Some of these guys waited several years to get those papers. It wasn't because I didn't trust them. It wasn't because I didn't think they were good enough. But the Bible says to lay hands on no man suddenly. I would not ordain someone who just walked through the door that I did not know. That would be unscriptural for me to do that. But after I knew them, after I began to know what they were all about, and know that they, in fact, number one, had a call on their life. That's the number one thing. There's people that want, and you say, well, nobody would want to preach unless they had a call. Well, nobody in any sense would want to preach unless they had a call. But a lot of people want to preach, but they don't want to minister. You know, they think, well, that'd be neat, stand up there and yell at everybody. But they don't know what all goes with that. They don't know about them phone calls at 2 o'clock in the morning. They don't know about them days when there is no rest. But the call has to come from God first. If that person feels the call, and then the ordaining entity feels that they have the call, And they have proven themselves, according to Scripture. Scripture lays out that they're to be a reputable character and that they're to be meet specific requirements. Once they do that, then the entity that is ordaining can do that. They can ordain them with the blessings of God, knowing not only that God has ordained that, but through the entity by which they are being given papers, if you will, they're being ordained in that manner. So my ordination is nothing more than giving them paper. I'm used of God to scrutinize who they are and whether or not they're worthy of that. I need to be led of God. I would not just give papers to anyone. Matter of fact, we haven't given many papers. But again, if it's called of God, if God ordained it, then he's going to see to it that I realize, he's going to see to it first that the applicant understands it and knows that the call is there. Then he's going to see to it that I do it, and then he's going to see to it that the council that approves that also understands and believes that. And then they can not only be ordained of God, but they can have that additional official capacity that we need in this world that we exist in. That makes sense? The idea of being ordained means that it is administered by the immediate direction of God. You know, the government of Israel, again, it was theocratic. It was not democratic. So is the church. Not all about voting. Although we vote on some things, the guidance for this church, the things that we do, has to come directly from God. It doesn't come, we don't vote on everything we do. Well, I think we need to have a revival. Well, we're going to have to vote on that. And well, I think we need to do this. Well, we're going to have to vote on, that's not the case. When it comes to the business of the church, the council votes on things. But the Bible tells us that deacons were created for the purpose of administering the church. In other words, to take care of the business of the church. Actually, they were originally designed to feed the people. But their duties revolve around being attentive to the administration of the church. Candace, if y'all want to come, I'm going to close. Didn't get very far today. Church, it's a place of communicating with God. It's not something that should be taken lightly. It's something that every believer needs to embrace and to know that if God ordained it, then it's important. Amen. If God ordained it, then it is essential. This is not an optional thing, whether to go to church or not. Some people make it optional. But in God's eyes, it is not optional that you be in church. I believe that God would have you to make a priority of being in church. And that you as a believer should seek where you're to serve. And I'm assuming everybody here has done that. Outside of maybe a visitor. That you seek, number one, okay, Lord, where am I to serve you? What church am I to be part of? It's not something that you choose because, there used to be a lot made about Northside, had a big chandelier. And every evangelist come in and make fun of that chandelier. Because it obviously cost a lot of money and it was beautiful, but, it was seen as extravagance. But God called you. And he has ordained the church, and he expects you to be part of it. And as we will get into as we go further into this series on church, you'll see it matters where you go to church. It makes not just a little difference where you go to church, but it makes a lot of difference. And I never will forget leading one of my friends He had a Jehovah Witness background. So he really had some mixed up ideas about God in the first place. And he and I were great friends, and I had gotten saved in the meantime and tried to lead him to the Lord. And it was a pretty big struggle with him there for a while. But he finally gave his heart to the Lord, and he had remarried in the meantime. And I was urging him, I said, man, you need to become part of church. Come go to church with us. And I never could get him to come visit, and I knew it was probably because his wife didn't jive with the Pentecostal way of thinking. But he finally settled on a church, and he told me, well, we're going over to such and such church. And I said, well, okay, that's good that you're going to church. I said, well, what made you choose that church? Well, we have a lot of friends that go over there. I said, brother, that's not a reason to choose church. You don't go to church to be with your friends. Now, you should go to church and become friends with everybody that's there. You don't go to church because mom and dad go there. The first church that we pastored was a church that had been dismantled brick by brick in another city and brought and reconstructed in this city. And it had a lot of history with some of the families that were part of that church. They were not part of a denomination. They had no decree of doctrine whatsoever. They didn't even know what they believed. But they knew that church had been brought brick by brick. They could tell you that story. And they would tell you right quick, I'll always go to this church. My daddy helped bring them bricks up for this church. Not a reason to choose church. That's not a reason to join yourself to that body. If it's ordained of the Creator, if he's put his approval upon it, if he's created it for believers, then how much importance should you put in being part of that? How important is it where you're at? How important is what they believe? Well, I go to this church because it's 7 miles shorter than where I go to church. Still not a good reason. And I tell people this all the time, and I'll leave you with this. There's only one thing you need to ask God about when it comes to church. God, where do I serve? And let him point you to where you're to be. And you be part of that. And it'll be somewhere that you believe what they believe. It'll be somewhere that they're preaching the truth of the Word of God. It won't necessarily be the biggest church in town. It won't necessarily be the church with the biggest choir. It won't necessarily be the church with the greatest singer or the greatest musician or the greatest preacher or the greatest ushers or the greatest members. It'll be the place that God has ordained for you to go to. If he ordained the church, then he will ordain the place that you're supposed to be. And it is your responsibility as a believer to seek that from God. Quit worrying about tradition. Quit worrying about this or that. You ask that one question, God, where am I supposed to serve? And then it doesn't matter what Uncle John's doing. Doesn't matter what mom and dad's doing. Doesn't matter what your buddies at work are doing or not doing. The only thing that matters is that you're in the ordained church that God ordained for you to be in. And if you'll do that, you'll find your life changing. You'll find your life growing in strength. You'll find encouragement. You'll find strength. You'll find all the things that you go to church for in the first place. Amen? Does that make sense? Makes perfect sense to me. I don't know about y'all. And I'm going to say this. I love every one of you, and I wished every one of you would call this church home. But if you really feel led of the Lord to go somewhere else, you'll never get an argument out of me. And I've had people tell me, well, I just feel like the Lord's leading me down the street. Well, God bless you, brother. I hate to see you go, but you follow the Lord. It may not be God's will that you be here, but just be wherever it's God's will. That's what's important. Amen. I'm telling you, I spent 40-something years of my life outside of God's will. I don't ever want to be there again. I don't ever want to be there again. There's too much confusion, too much distraction in being outside of God's will. Bow your heads, please. Heavenly Father, I thank you today. I thank you for the sweet move of the Spirit of God this morning. I thank you, Lord, that you've ordained this message today. That you've put it in my heart, Lord God, that you've put it in the hearts of those that have received it here today. And I pray that what has been said would penetrate the heart, that it would minister to the heart. And it would wake us up to being into the center of your will, accomplishing what you want to accomplish in each and every one of us. I want to open this altar up this morning. If you need prayer for anything, if you need to just come and pray, the altar is open at this time. God hears your prayers. He knows your needs. I pray that during the moving of the Spirit of God this morning,